What if the products in your home and even the food on your plate was quietly sabotaging your health in ways you didn't even imagine? Welcome to the Green Living Now podcast, where we cut through the noise and help you live cleaner, healthier, and more consciously without the overwhelm. I'm Amy Todisco, Green Living mentor, organic farmer, speaker, and holistic health advocate. With over 30 years of experience helping people detox their lives one step at a time. Each week, I bring you powerful conversations, surprising truths, and actionable tips to help you ditch the toxins, embrace sustainable living, and feel your best naturally. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to dive into the topic of clean living, particularly for pregnant moms and parents of young children. Now, much of this will apply to all people, but there are specific things that I want to touch on that are very important for pregnant moms and parents of young kids to consider. So we're going to talk about everything from food to household products to baby beds, formula. I have some great resources for you that will help you make this so much easier and less overwhelming because really being pregnant is overwhelming enough, especially if it's your first time. I have one biological daughter and some stepkids, but I remember it was life-changing for me to finally become pregnant because it took me a little while. And then there was this whole journey of how to make sure that I did everything that I could to make sure that I was safe and that I was not going to expose my unborn child to anything that might be hazardous. This whole topic of green living started for me a little bit when I was a kid, but my biggest aha moment occurred when I was pregnant. I was in a health food store shopping like I did every week, and I was drawn to this little paperback book called The Non-Toxic Baby. And I learned about all of these synthetic chemicals that were in everyday products, like the cleaning products or the body care, the shampoo, the carpets, the paints. I mean, pretty much everything that we purchase and bring into our home. And I was sort of overwhelmed and shocked, first of all, that this was legally allowed and that there weren't a whole lot of resources or options back then. So I did a deep dive into this topic and learned everything I could about what was in everyday products and why I might want to avoid them and what to use instead. That was really one of the biggest and most important parts. So we're going to talk about things to avoid, tips that might help you feel more confident that you're doing everything you can to protect this unborn child. And also if you have kids already in the house. And these things can apply to all of us and actually be beneficial for pets too. One of the reasons why it's so important to consider what you're exposing yourself to and also your baby and children to is because children are much more vulnerable. Their bodies are developing, their brains are developing, their immune systems are developing. And so if they are being exposed to all kinds of chemicals, that can have a negative impact on them. Unfortunately, in the United States, at least, our regulations haven't kept up with things. They don't operate with the precautionary principle, which basically says, you want to make sure that you err on the side of caution. Usually it's waiting till harm is caused and then they take action. So it's considered safe until proven harmful. And the problem too is that all of these different things that we're exposed to are on a daily basis. Nobody's really studying what the impact of all of these different things are together. They are just looking at little isolated, one thing at a time. I don't want to overwhelm you and make you feel like, oh my gosh, everything is toxic. So there are certain things that are pretty key as far as pregnancy that I want to address. The first thing I looked at was food, and I definitely believe that we are what we eat. I was already eating organic food at that time, but I had also been a vegetarian, and I noticed that I was really craving meat. Then I started buying grass-fed, grass-finished beef. I started to add protein in because I knew that I needed that extra energy because it wasn't just me that I was taking care of. One of the things to pay attention to in your own diet is trying to switch to organic as much as possible. If you're on a budget and you want to prioritize the things that are most important, check out the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 list. I have a wonderful new resource on my website. It's the Smart Mama's Guide to Clean Eating During Pregnancy. And so in that guide, you will see that list of the dirty dozen, which means those are the fruits and vegetables that were tested and found to have the highest amount of pesticide residues. That's definitely the ones you want to buy certified organic. And then the Clean 15 is the list that is not as bad, much lower residues. So if you have budgetary concerns, the Clean 15 are things like pineapples and onions, and I can't think of what else is on the list. Those are the ones that you can actually eat, conventional and not worry so much. But the more you can go towards the certified organic food, the better. Try not to drink anything out of a plastic bottle, especially if it's sitting in your car or, any plastic bottle. Who knows if it's been on a hot truck, and those therefore would be getting more of those chemicals into whatever the beverage is. You want to eliminate plastics in your kitchen. So get rid of those no-stick Teflon pans. Store your food in glass instead of plastic. In fact, what I do, I have glass containers, but they have plastic lids. And so if I fill those pretty full, I will put a piece of unbleached wax paper in between the food and the plastic top, just so that I don't have to worry about the food touching the plastic, especially for fatty substances or acidic things like tomato sauce. You don't want those touching the plastic. Really don't want anything touching the plastic. I don't even use a microwave. I've never liked microwaves. I don't like the uneven way that it heats the food, but even more importantly, don't do anything in plastic in the microwave. Like the microwave popcorn, even though those look like they might be paper bags, they're lined with plastic. Definitely a no-no to heat anything in plastic. Those chemicals have been linked to hormone disruption and developmental issues and metabolic problems, which is especially important during pregnancy. One of the reasons why I don't really like microwaves too is because it actually can destroy some of the nutrients. A 2003 study in the Journal of the Science of Food and Agriculture found that microwaving broccoli with water destroyed up to 97% of its antioxidants, compared to just 11% when steamed. So that's huge. A lot of microwaves leak. So that means if you stand too close to it and it's leaking out those electromagnetic frequency waves. Oh, and I would not cook my food in those plastic boiler bags. I couldn't believe I went to Costco and bought a bunch of frozen organic broccoli, which was awesome. But they came in these like a 4-pack of plastic bags. And the instructions were telling me to boil this broccoli in a plastic bag. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that is insane to, destroy the broccoli like that. Why would I do that? Even plastic utensils, I don't use those. I don't even really like the silicone ones, honestly. I prefer a stainless steel spatula, stainless steel spoons, bamboo, that kind of stuff. So, on the topic of food, thinking about once your baby is born, ideally, if you can breastfeed, that's awesome. If you can't or choose not to for whatever reason, then you might want to consider a certified organic grass-fed baby formula. And I know that there's some good brands out there that you can choose. And when you first start introducing food to your baby, you definitely want to go with certified organic. I think prenatal vitamins are actually important because I don't feel like even if we're eating the best certified organic whole foods, no junk food, no processed foods, our soils are depleted from nutrients, particularly things like selenium. And this is me speaking to you from living and working on an organic farm here in Vermont. Even the best soils that we're, constantly working to grow healthy soil, to grow healthy food, our soils are depleted of nutrients. And so therefore the food can only be, it can only be nutritious to a point as far as what we're putting into the soil and what we're using for fertilizers and that sort of thing. So it's important to use a high quality, ideally organic whole food is what I had preferred. Organic whole food supplement. I mean, organic whole food prenatal vitamins. And so that would mean don't buy your prenatal vitamins at, Walmart or a drugstore, because those are usually just synthetic and don't really have a lot of good ingredients in them. You certainly don't want, extra colors and artificial this and that. So I think it's important to have those extra vitamins, especially because you may not be eating as well balanced a diet as you might need to. And so that can give you a little extra help. The other thing was I had to make sure my drinking water was clean because I wasn't living on this beautiful organic farm in Vermont at that time. I was living in Massachusetts and we were on a municipal system. And so one of the best things you can do if you're on a municipal system is go to the ewg.org website and put in your zip code and see what kinds of things might be in your drinking water that you want to avoid. And I found this great mom and pop company that was at the time called Lakota Scientific, and they just changed their name. I forget what it is. But anyway, I'll put the link to it in the show notes in case you're interested in this filter. There's some great filters out there. I find this one was really affordable, and I loved the fact that you could call the owner and talk to him and tell him what your needs were. And I would say ultimately, as far as water, it would be great if you have the budget for it to do a whole house filter. At the very least, you want to get a tap water filter and a shower water filter. And there's even bath water filters too that can take out some of the contaminants. One of the big things is chlorine, and then some systems use something called chloramine, which is not really any better than chlorine. And then there's all kinds of other synthetic chemicals that are in drinking and bathing water. And so, of course, we understand that whatever we drink is going to get into our body, but surprisingly, what we absorb through our skin is also equally as important. Thinking about what kinds of products you're using on your body, because of course, anything that you're using is getting into your developing baby. So I was never really big into makeup back then, or today for that matter. But there are some nice, cleaner makeup brands that don't have the toxic synthetic stuff in them. And one of the things to really focus on is anything that has a fragrance is something to avoid. And sometimes people, when they're pregnant, they actually become more sensitive to smell. So if that's you, that might actually be helpful because then you want to avoid being around perfume. One of the most important things to swap is your laundry detergent because you are in that detergent in your clothes 24/7, or even if you sleep without clothes at night, you're still in bedding that's been washed in it. One of the best things you can do is go fragrance free as a first step. But if you're really wanting to do, the best for yourself and for your baby and children, is the natural products. Fragrance free is better than free and clear. Free and clear is not necessarily free and clear of all the chemicals that you want to get rid of. So yes, laundry detergent is very important. Even thinking about the type of bed that you're sleeping on. So I, about 5 years ago, actually invested in a natural rubber and organic cotton bed because most mattresses have flame retardants, and that is not something that you want to have in your system, and certainly not around your newborn. The issue with our mattresses, besides the flame retardants, is that most mattresses are made out of polyurethane foam, which is a petroleum product, and that also outgasses, which means like little tiny droplets of these chemical compounds are sort of popping out of our products into our air. And it's things like toluene and benzene and formaldehyde, the stuff that they embalm dead bodies with. And these things can be linked to respiratory problems, headaches, hormone disruption, that sort of thing. There's also the glues that the mattresses are made with, which may also release formaldehyde and other chemicals. There's a bunch of different brands out there now that sell some really good quality mattresses. Cleaning product wise, you can really clean your house with so few things. You don't need all the different products that we're told that we need. But the most important part is you don't want to be exposing yourself to all the fumes because really all the products that we bring into our home, whether we're using them on our body or cleaning or even, the couch that we sit on, all of these have synthetic chemicals that can outgas into your indoor air. And so the EPA talks about how the indoor air in our home is more toxic than even the outdoor air, even in a polluted city. So some of the things that are important around that is obviously not bringing stuff in that's not healthy, but also you want to air out your house. I mean, even in the winter here in Vermont, I have the windows open. We're lucky because we have passive solar. So even in the winter when it's 0 degrees out, I can have the window open a lot of the day because when it's sunny. If it's a sunny day, it gets really warm in here, and so I can air out the place. But I also, as you can see above, I have pothos plants, I have spider plants. Those are great at cleaning the air. So those are wonderful to have in the house. Peace lilies are another one that's good for cleaning the air. Thinking about what you're exposing yourself to, even as far as fabrics. Are you wearing all polyester stuff and synthetic? I see women wearing yoga pants everywhere. When I went down to visit my mom, who lives outside of New York City, I was shocked to see how many young women are wearing yoga pants, which is all plastic, basically. So, what you can do to try to swap out to at least cotton, natural fibers, linen is ideal, organic cotton is ideal, and just trying to get away from all the polyester stuff. Because another issue with that is the fact that it's also something that every time we wash it, all of those little microplastic fibers are washing out into the wastewater, wherever that goes for you. But it's contributing to this ridiculous amount of plastic that we have in our worlds, which are now turning up in our bodies. That's a kind of scary thing to see that they're doing studies now to find that there's plastics in our brain, there's plastics in our arteries, our ovaries, our testes. I mean, it's everywhere. So we really need to take this plastic situation seriously. So that's another thing to really think about. Another topic is, I don't know if anybody colors their hair, but if you do, you want to pay attention to what you're using because, again, those types of chemicals can get into your system and therefore into your baby. So check out some of the herbal products. Another big topic is I have watched so many women in particular, but it's both men and women, boys and girls, wearing their cell phone on them. A lot of times I see women wearing them in a pocket, right above their breast or in, back pockets. Don't wear a cell phone on your body if you can possibly avoid it. Wear it in a purse or something else that's not directly on your body. And, even looking at iPads and devices, try not to have it touching your body, especially near your belly. That's an important thing to avoid the whole EMF, electromagnetic frequency, because there's definitely studies out there that are talking about some of those risks and dangers. So eliminating exposure to that as much as possible. And then that makes me even think about, I'm sort of shocked at how many parents are letting their young children play with all of these electronic devices. And I think it's tough to live in the world without them. I get that, but you probably want to limit the exposure, especially for the youngest children, to, very short amounts of time. So that would be another recommendation. So I know how people love to prepare the nursery before the baby arrives, but I would just caution you to ideally not paint it yourself. And if you do have somebody else paint the room, have them choose a no VOC, no volatile organic compound brand of paint. They're actually in most hardware stores now, I think. You don't want to be exposing yourself to those fumes, but you also don't want to bring a newborn baby into a room that's just been painted. And you want to try to prioritize solid wood. So the crib ideally is solid wood as opposed to, the kind that has like synthetic and plastic on the outside to keep it more stain resistant. And let's see, EMFs we talked about. You want to make sure that you are not exposing yourself to extra electric magnetic frequency. So that means don't carry your cell phone on your body. I watch too many people, especially young people, wearing their, cell phones in a pocket above their breasts or, in their back pockets. If you can carry it in a purse or, even one of those little fanny packs or something like that, at least give yourself a little space from it. So don't put your laptop on your stomach when you're, at home and just try to be careful about that. And that brings me to the topic of I'm so surprised by how many kids are using all these electronic devices. And I know it's hard to live in this world and not be on a device, but if you can protect your young children from, being exposed to those types of things, at least regulate the amount of time that they're spending on devices, I think that will be so much healthier for them. So another thing that I think goes along with the whole topic of healthy, clean living is trying to reduce your stress because whatever you're experiencing as a pregnant mom, your baby is also experiencing. I remember I was married to somebody else at the time, and his mother, we needed to move her to an assisted living facility. And so that meant we had to clean out her house to get it ready to sell. And this house she had been in for a really long time, and she was a little bit of a pack rat. And she also loved to cook. This was an Italian woman. And so I remember feeling so stressed cleaning the kitchen because there was such a thick layer of grease on the stovetop hood and the counters. And for me, and especially pregnant, the way stress showed up was I had to run to the bathroom and pee constantly. So my point is simply do the whatever you can. I don't know if you have practices that you're already doing, whether you're pregnant or not, as far as stress management, but there's all kinds of resources nowadays. There's obviously meditation, there's yoga, which is great. Taking walks is excellent. Even listening to music that has different frequencies, like 528 hertz, is really helpful with cell regeneration and healing. And then the 432 is very calming and grounding. But you can listen to all kinds of different music. Sometimes they have it with healing ocean music or just all kinds of neat sounds. Just getting, fresh air and exercise, spending time with your friends and your partner, all of those things are important to having kind of a well-rounded life. But especially when you're pregnant, you want to, sort of do the best that you can for yourself because your life is going to change, no question about it. Certainly your sleep patterns are going to be altered, at least for a while. I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information. If you want to go deeper, I have resources on my website. Like I said, I have the Smart Mama's Guide to Clean Eating During Pregnancy. That's a freebie. I also have some wonderful online courses that can teach you all of the stuff that I've learned in easy to digest, quick tips. These online courses, one of them is Clean Eating Mastery, that tells you everything basically you need to know about food. And it includes my ebook on the comprehensive labels guide that I did a whole analysis of 100 different food labels to figure out which things are meaningful, which ones aren't, and which ones are sort of meaningful. And I was even shocked. But anyway, I've analyzed all these different food labels, and that's in that Clean Eating Mastery class, as well as all the different budget saving tips that I've developed over the years for how to buy organic on a budget. And so much information that is just easy to implement in your life with quick little homework assignments. And then the other one that might be useful is how to create a non-toxic home, the room by room guide. So we cover everything in that course about all the different toxins that you might want to eliminate from your home and how to do that and what the swaps are for it. And if you really want personalized attention, I still do a few one-on-ones. So I'm happy to set up a time to spend with you and actually answer your specific questions and help you along the way because I know how important it is to live a clean, healthy life, especially when you're pregnant. So I hope this has been useful to you. Please check out the free resources on the website as well. And until next time, I wish you the best with your pregnancy and with your young kids in the home. Be well. Thanks for tuning in to the Green Living Now podcast. If you are feeling inspired to take steps towards a cleaner, healthier, more sustainable lifestyle, don't miss my free guide, 5 Steps to Ditch Everyday Toxins Without Overwhelm. Inside, you'll get simple, practical swaps to clean up your food, home, and habits without falling down a research rabbit hole or second-guessing every label. Just head over to greenlivingnow.com or click on the link in the show notes, and you can get instant access. And if this episode gave you a new insight or fresh perspective, please hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to detox their life and feel better naturally. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and stay green.